Recording now. And if you could share your screen now. Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Oh, okay. I think everything is all right.
Okay.
So first of all, thank you very much, Müge and Hüseyin, for your invitation to this nice lecture series. And I must admit that I am very happy to be here. So today I would like to speak about my my work, my archaeobotanical work for the last 10 years, actually. But currently, I am working in another kind of, sorry. Okay, sorry, sorry for this. So currently, I am working in another kind of project about the earthen building materials, and I am trying to understand the phytolith deposition in earthen building materials. These materials are like mud bricks, mud mortars, and any kind of material that were used, that were made out of earth. And I got involved in this project, which was directed by Dr. Marta Lorenzen and Dr. Benjamin Cutillas. So we are trying to understand the Phoenicians, how Phoenicians were managed to establish their settlements in Western Mediterranean Sea. So my colleagues are responsible for for analysis of geochemical composition and petrographic identification. And my role is to analyze phytolith evidence from within the mud bricks and mud clusters to investigate the interrelationships between ecological conditions and human resource selection of migrant communities, such as Phoenicians in the first millennium BC. So we are still at the stage of data collection and trying to establish the data set. But it's just, I mean, as far as I am doing the analysis, it will bring very, very interesting results. But today, as I said, I would like to make a presentation about my archaeobotanical research for the last 10 years. And I got involved into two different kind of projects, which were from two different settlements, and they were both located in the same area. Both sites are located at the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, and at the they are more like at the northwestern side of Eastern Mediterranean Sea. And here, and also they are both located in the same hydrogeological position, which is the Orontes River watershed. Here, the first site is Tell Tayinat, as you can see over here, and it is just very close to the Orontes River. As you can see, it's a meandering river. And this site is overlooking to a very huge agriculturally fertile plain, which is called Amuk Plain. The second site is Zincirli, and it's located 100 kilometers north, and it is still within the Orontes watershed. But here we called this region as Islahiye Plain, and it is also a very fertile and well-watered agricultural location. What I would like to say is that both sites are also located geographically strategic positions, and this, as I try, for example, Tell Tayinat is just located at the mouth of the valley, Orontes Valley over here, and just is controlling to the whole area to the west and east, also north. This is important for the communication networks in the Bronze and Iron Age Near East. And they both, and we know that both sides were invaded, and also they were also partners of trade networks. Zincirli, in that sense, is also in a very geographically a very important position, that it controls the routes going to central Anatolia, to Mesopotamia, and also the southeastern Anatolia. So this is, as I said, this was a research which is going on for the last 10 years, and of course, like every other researchers, my research interests have changed, and finally, maybe I just decided to focus on a couple of points in terms of the research questions. So during this period, I worked on the establishment of complex society during the early Bronze Age, which covers the 3rd millennium BC. Also, I got involved into research for how these communities were converting their resources into another resource, and how long-distance trade networks were effective in determining the crop production patterns during the Middle Bronze Age. Then another of my research interests is that I worked on the collapse and regeneration of complex societies at the end of late Bronze Age. And finally, I was curious about the role of agriculture in imperial state building processes, and we had, for both sides, we had quite good evidence for the Neo-Assyrian period levels and Neo-Assyrian levels. So I also worked in that sense, in that research question. But before starting to explain my research in relation to this research question, I would like to quote one of the most important biologists and ecologists of 20th century. This is Michael Zohari, and he made a remark about Turkey, which would be quite interesting and important for our purpose. So he said that Turkey is perhaps the only Middle Eastern country in which the countless combinations of moisture, temperature, and soils are ecologically not less weighty than amounts of precipitation. These combinations have formed in Turkey an immense array of habitats, which have no doubt diversified the vegetation and rendered Turkey the largest center of species formation among the countries of the Middle East. So, starting from his remark, actually, I would like to explain the ecological importance of my study region. So this is the northwestern part of Mediterranean Sea, and as you can see, this map is showing the different distribution patterns of different Mediterranean climatic zones in Turkey. Here, what we see is that so I didn't say that, but here it is very position. It is very position. There is Amanos Mountains. So as we can see that one side of the Amanos Mountains is having more rain and it is more humid, and the eastern part of Amanos Mountains and further east, of course, there are less moisture. And according to that, the precipitation patterns are changing in west to east direction. So to clarify this situation, I would like to show the reason of this one. Here you can see the Amanos Mountains, the Orontes Valley. That is the northern part of the Orontes Valley here, and this geographical location is called Cilicia. So during the summer, what we see is that the direction of prevailing winds is very specific, and it is just coming from north. I'm sorry, southwest to northwest. So this summer winds actually carries the atmospheric moisture from over the Mediterranean Sea to the western part of Amanos Mountains. And if you visited Cilicia, if you ever visited Cilicia, what you will see is that there's like loss of moisture. So that moisture makes Cilicia is an agriculturally fertile plain, and it is in this location actually it is possible to cultivate the subtropical and tropical plants because of this very specific moisture level, high moisture level. But this is not the only case. This is not the only property that I would like to speak. Here, if you look at the bottom, what you see is a vegetation, how the vegetation changed. So here the fog is just covering the Amanos Mountains, and there are really distinct differences between the eastern part and the western part of the Amanos Mountains. Here we see that, for example, certain at the bottom, at the more closer, when it's closer to the Mediterranean Sea, at the bottom levels, altitudes, what we see is the Pinus brutia, which is the most common pine tree in this region. But when you go up, when the moisture level is became higher, what we see is a kind of a group of. Can you hear me still?
Sorry, after you said a group of, then there was a cut for me at least.
Yeah, my internet is lagging. Sorry for that.
No problem.
No, it is okay.
Thank you very much. So what we we see a group of plants, these are the broad-leaved trees. But okay, they have a very specific ecological condition here that I will explain in the next slide. But when you go up, what you see is that there are lots of Pinus nigra. This is another type of pine. And then at the drier part of Amanos Mountain, we see cedar, Lebanese cedar, and also some other conifers which were well adapted to the drier conditions. So this is a very interesting pattern, and it was first, and I'm sorry for, okay. All right. So this, so the presence of this group of plants had been first identified during the World War I, and ecologists or the explorers at that period were not able to understand why those plants were there. However, during the 60s, actually more and more ecologists and biologists were visiting Amanos Mountains. And it seems that the origin of this plant, I mean, as a group, they were coming from the coast of, from the vegetation of Black Sea coast. So this is a very interesting pattern, and what we see is that in the Amanos Mountains there are some plants that wouldn't be present in any kind of any other southern mountains or southern regions. So these plants are originally from Euro-Siberian phytogeographical zone, and they are oriental beech and black pine are the most dominant or predominant elements in this forest. So this place actually is one of the biodiversity hotspots in the Mediterranean Sea, And for that reason, we see a very large amount of plant species. And in total, if I am not wrong, it is 2,500 plants were accommodating here. All right, so to sum up about the vegetation and ecology, what we see is that there are in this, of course, the dominant element is Western Mediterranean plants that are coming from Western Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean phytogeographical zone. Then what we see is that Irano-Turanian elements are also getting very closer to this region. Also, there are these extrazonal plants which are coming from Black Sea coast, and they are we know that they are elements of Euro-Siberian phytogeographical zone. And also there is whole northern Levant, whole Orontes watershed actually form another type of not vegetation zone, but it's a group of plants that only appears in Orontes watershed. So for these reasons, this area is ecologically active, and it's also in terms of biodiversity and endemism, there are lots of plants, and it's an important place. So actually, I would like to start my work at Zincirli because Zincirli actually is I would like to start from Zincirli. Zincirli is a multi-period site, and it has early Bronze Age 4B, according to the Syrian chronology. It has early Bronze Age 3B levels, but unfortunately, these levels are too much deep that we cannot able to dig it properly, and we cannot reach those levels yet. We found a small occupation level. It's about 2 hectares for the Middle Bronze Age 2 level. And with the radiocarbon analysis, what we know that this occupation has ended at the end of Middle Bronze Age, when the societies are started to turn into the late Bronze Age occupations levels or life. So today I would like to explain these Middle Bronze Age 2 levels, and we also have Iron Age 2 and Iron Age 3 levels at the site. But this site is actually the most famous with this very nicely preserved orthostats in the Stigates, and it has also excavated during the 20th century. All right. During these excavations, our archaeologists encountered a very nicely preserved destruction level from Middle Bronze Age 2, and we were able to uncover 10 rooms. This is like 2 buildings, and it's a big complex. Here, we were able to identify 10 rooms in 2 buildings, and also there is an intervening street in the middle, and also this building has a open courtyard, half open courtyard at this corner. So far, what we know is that the first building we called as building DD1. There are food production or food processing features, archaeological features, and also there are some installations and diverse artifact assemblage. However, as you can see, the walls of this building are quite short, so it seems more ephemeral. However, the other building is more much well established, and we have seen that it could be more monumental and possibly it's a double-storied building. Also, the assemblage is weighted towards storage and administration. I will not discuss the third building over here, which is called Hilani 1. This is actually an interesting aspect because the first excavations during the beginning of 20th century, they uncovered this building and they identified as an Assyrian building. However, as an Assyrian palace. But it will be possible that this could be actually a Middle Bronze Age building because its main architectural features do not confirm it as an Iron Age building. So we are still working on that. But at least if you try to understand, there's this complex of building, and there's another building up north, which could be also related to this complex. I am still at the stage of making the final analysis for these Middle Bronze Age levels, but thanks to our excavators, they established a very excellent spatial control for the archaeological sampling, and but for this reason, actually, I was able to make a contextual analysis and trying to better understand the spatial distribution of plant remains across this level. So there is one very interesting feature, installation. It's called installation feature, but it is most probably a processing feature, processing installation, let's say. Here, I was able to analyze the archaeological remains which was covered over this basin. And as you can see, this basin is not for, doesn't look like a mortar that you can just pound the cereals. But instead, there is an opening over here, and this opening in the middle of this basin, opening is closely related to this other plastered basin over here. Then there is a hole here. So when I made the analysis, I have seen that there are lots of grape pips in this basin over here. But also what is more interesting is that there are lots of freshwater plants which were appearing here. And plants, and also I will say this chara, which is not a plant, but it's a kind of algae. So there are plants in this very specific sample. There are plants, algae, and ostracods with growing habits in late summer and early autumn. So it seems that at least part of this sample were connected to an activity which would be done in late summer or early autumn. And since the grape is the only crop, and since we look at the basic morphology of this installation, I think it would be fair to assume that this could be a kind of wine processing feature to possibly to sieve the wine and trying to remove the waste out of the wine. But this is just my hypothesis. Another aspect that will be related in this is this area actually is very famous for the wine. This whole area, Amanos Mountains and up north, is a place that a very specific and very well received wine is produced. And during the excavations, not in this room, but in other rooms, we have found a very specific type of vessels. And we know that these vessels were being used for wine transporting. and as you can see at the left side. So that will be possible, and this will be, it's highly possible that this is an activity in relation to the wine production. Okay. So when I was analyzing this assemblage, since I am still working on the general composition of this assemblage, I keep finding some very interesting plant remains. This is one of those is hawkweed. This is Hieracium. This in Latin is called Hieracium. So this genus actually has 103 species in Turkey, all around Turkey. However, from today's ecological studies, we know that 5 of them appear in our study region. And what's interesting is that 3 of them are endemic to the mountains of the study region. And also more interesting is that 2 species are, we are sure that 2 species are Euro-Siberian elements. So as I said, they must have a connection with the Black Sea coast, the vegetation at the Black Sea coast. But I think one of the most important finding in this research would be the presence of a type of grass. This is Eleucine indica. And here at the left side, you can see the picture, but I took it from internet. I didn't take the picture, but as you can see, the seed is a sculptured surface, and it is like a laterally slim. So in that sense, it is simply impossible to make a mistake in identification. So this plant is very important, I think, because the native range of this species is tropical and subtropical Old World. And this plant is growing primarily in the seasonally dry tropical biome. This is basically savanna grassland. This is an element from savanna grasslands. And rainfall, and in this sense, the rainfall in savannas is always appearing in summer. It's also important because this is a C4 plant, and the flowering period is in August. And also this is like an invasive weed species in India, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Southeast Asia. The previous archaeobotanical records actually show that they were part of the cotton fields in India. So that's would be actually one of its habitats. So when we had also some phytolith results from this site, and what we see is that actually these C4 plants are not uncommon in the phytolith record of the site, and that's quite interesting in the sense that the C4 plants actually are there are not too many species of C4 plants in this region in Turkey, and as you can see, north of Sahara, there are not too many plants, C4 plants. The reason is that, first of all, the main habitat of these C4 plants are savanna grasslands, but sometimes these plant species were able to penetrate to warm temperate regions, including desert fringes. So I'm still making the analysis and also trying to understand the presence of this species. But as you can see, the main distribution is south of Sahara Desert. And why I'm still trying to understand why this plant is appearing over here. So the second site is Tell Tayinat, and I did my doctoral research here. In this site, we have got early Bronze Age 4A and 4B levels. I analyzed only early Bronze Age 4B levels here, and I made I analyzed approximately 100 samples. We also have early Bronze Age 1, 2, and 3. And in this presentation, I will only show Iron Age 1 results. And here, what is important is that the site actually is pretty much located either close to the 400 to 4,200 BP event, or 3,200 BP event. So it is also an important site for understanding the human responses to these climatic events. And also what I must say is that after the end of early Bronze Age 4, the occupation shifted to another site, which is a very close site, which is called Tell. And at the end of the second millennium, or exactly at 1200 BC, the occupation shifted back to Tell Tayinat. So I will also refer Tell during this presentation in next slides. And I'm sorry. So in this settlement, my samples are coming from a very specific location, which is under this temple. So when Tayinat excavations by the University of Toronto started, there were no any left over of this temple, actually, this building over here. Because this was also an old excavation, and in 1930s it was excavated by the University of Chicago. Yeah, so think that under this temple, the excavators opened 4 10-10 trenches, and my sequence are coming from those trenches. So for results, it's a very quick one that I can show you that we have got 3 different aspects over here. So what we see is that early Bronze Age 4B assemblage is clustered in a very specific area. Iron Age 1 assemblage is clustered in a very specific area, but they are, as you can see, they are very much close to each other. However, the first occupation phase, subphase actually, this is subphase 6C, behave very differently in relation to other levels over here. Here, this is the and also is a reference. So 7 actually is the final stage of the occupation during early Bronze Age, and we are sure that with the radiocarbon dates, we are sure that this occupation level actually is within the climatic event time frame of 4,200 BP event. So here, what I did is that I compiled the Telechana data, and I added early Iron Age 1 data from Tell Tayinat, and I tried to understand if there were some changes in cereal crops as percentages. So what we see is that something really interesting is that during the Telechana, late Bronze Age Telechana levels, we see lots of filtration wheat, and the amount of filtration wheat is just getting lower and lower at the expense of emmer wheat and also barley. So if I would show you in a different way, what we see is that, so this is the ratio, actually the same graphic, but it shows as a ratio. Here I am showing the ratio of I am showing the ratio of barley to naked wheat, and here what we see is that there are less barley at Telechana, but it's just getting more and more during the first 2 phases of Tell Tayinat. and then it is just at the end of Iron Age 1, this barley is just getting less. So what we know that barley tolerates saline soils and drought conditions better than naked wheat, and this could be a first hint about understanding this period. And the next one of other results is that here, until now, actually, the wild plant assemblage of Telachana was not very well established. Because there were many, maybe I would say, master degree research, and it was too difficult to compile this wild plant data of Telachana with Tell Tayinat. However, currently at the University of Tübingen, a doctoral student actually is doing a more comprehensive study about the plant remains of Telachana, and now we will learn it much better. So because of this lake at the moment that I was doing this research, what I did is that I compared early Bronze Age levels of Tell Tayinat to Iron Age 1 levels of Tell Tayinat. Here, what we see something interesting that during the first phase, as you can see during the early Iron Age, early Bronze Age 4, what we see is that there are medium-seeded wild grasses and small-seeded wild grasses. They have got very specific proportions or percentages. However, during the first phase of Iron Age 1, what we see is that small-seeded wild grasses are just getting too many. And it also continues a little bit during the next phase. But this actually was very much interesting to me. So what I did next is that I look at the percentages of the main wild taxa. I'm telling this as a main because they appear in every samples. So there are 4 of them. This is Lolium phalaris, small-seeded Fabaceae, and Anthemis cotula. So what we see is that, again, during the early Bronze Age, what we see that the proportions are very much similar to each other. However, during the first phase of Iron Age 1, what we see is the great increase in phalaris, for example. And also there's a little bit increase for the Anthemis cotula. And then this situation returned to early Bronze Age, return something similar to early Bronze Age levels, starting from field phase 5, the next phase, and at the end of Iron Age 1 occupation. So if we look at the plants that we know they are coming from moist habitats or freshwater habitats, what we see is that their percentages are pretty much low during the early Bronze Age. However, with the start of Iron Age, we see that their percentages get bigger and bigger. Then I look at the ratio of medium and small-sized wild legumes. This is also very interesting is that so the small, medium-sized wild legumes are very much present actually in relation to the small-seeded wild legumes during early Bronze Ages. However, with the start of Iron Age 1, actually they simply disappear from the assemblage, and they only returned back at the end of Iron Age 1. So here, what I am trying to explain that there is something fishy during the first phases of early Iron Age. We had the chance to get the stable carbon isotope and also stable nitrogen isotope results. So this graph is showing the stable carbon isotope results. What we see is that this is the combined view, and I I got the results from barley and naked wheat. What we see is that during the early Bronze Age, actually both of plants are above the limit of stress conditions. However, here during the Iron Age one, what we see is that they're actually experiencing a kind of stress. So here I don't have actually too much time, I believe. So this is the same graph, but then I divide it into the phases. Here, as you can see again, during early Bronze Age, we see that there is no stress conditions, but during the first two phases of early Iron Age 1, that there are some stress conditions. The same thing is for nitrogen isotope results. What we see again that during early Bronze Age, actually there is no depletion of nitrogen in this for these crop plants. However, during early Iron Age, the values are just getting lower and lower, and it seems that the nitrogen values of nitrogen reservoir of the soils are getting depleted. So as a discussion, actually, one of the interesting thing is that what we assume from, for example, late Bronze Age, Iron Age transition, that it was very common to propose that there was a climatic change, and that climatic change was the reason of the collapse of the complex societies, late Bronze Age complex societies. And Kanievsky and her colleagues actually made a kind of statement that I believe that this statement wouldn't be too much true, or that I would, as I would explain, that there could be different levels of interpretation when we are approaching to these transitional periods. So Kanievsky and her colleagues says that this climatic shift, this is the 3,200 BP event. This climatic shift caused crop failures, dearth, and famine, which precipitated or hastened socio-economic crisis and forced regional human migrations at the end of late Bronze Age in the Eastern Mediterranean and Southwest Asia. So basically, if we look at the sequence of state formation and like rise and collapse of states, actually this statement is quite true. But when we look at in the general picture about agriculture, actually, I believe that we need to approach these transitional periods from a different perspective. And I think archaeobotany is a very good archaeobotany is providing a very good basis for making new interpretations about these transitional periods. So, was there an environmental stress in early Bronze Age 4 period at Tell Tayinat? In terms of crop production, actually, we see no change from the earliest phase to the last phase. So, as I have to say again, the last phase is within the 4,200 BP event. So, what we see is that crop growing conditions also remain similar during the early Bronze Age occupation. Stable isotope results show no stress conditions in water intake of barley and naked wheat during the last phase of early Bronze Age occupation. And also what we know is that cultivation, that they were these the inhabitants of Tell Tayinat during early Bronze Age 4, they were cultivating in nitrogen-rich fields. So nitrogen reservoir of arable fields were high, and for this there could be many different reasons actually. One of the reasons would be that summer fallowing is an usual practice in Mediterranean agriculture, and possibly grazing in fallow fields was practiced to provide extra manure to the fields. Therefore, this is a way of nitrogen enrichment. Also, what we know is that the wild plant assemblage is full of wild legumes. The plants from the legume family do not deplete the soil nitrogen reservoir due to symbiotic association with a fungi species. Early Bronze Age farmers actually may be well aware to keep these leguminous plants in their fields to achieve a sustaining crop yield. Also, what we know is that Orontes River actually is a very active river and it floats from time to time. And these flooding episodes of Orontes River will be important to deposit new nutrients, new silty nutrients into the soil. Then if we look at Iron Age 1, what we see is a way of, I believe that what we see is a way of coping the environmental stress conditions. Here we see that actually, there is no change in crop spectrum from late Bronze Age Telechana to early Iron Age Tell Tayinat. And what we see is that naked weeds and bitter vetch are prominent crop plants. At the same time, the crops with better tolerance to soil salinity and drought conditions increased. These are barley and emmer wheat. So similarly, pulses like lentil and garden pea became more visible in the assemblage. So I assume that this was an indication of a crop diversification in the face of dealing with the environmental stress. But what we also see that there is also a depletion in soil nitrogen reservoir, and there was a stress conditions for water intake of these crop plants. We were able to identify a lower nitrogen intake for crop plants in comparison to the early Bronze Age levels. And also what we see is that in the early Iron Age assemblage, there was a lake of medium-sized white legumes, which coincides in the first two phases of early Iron Age occupation. A similar decrease happens with the water intake of crop plants. So what the stable isotope results show only moderate stress conditions. Also, then what we see is that the cultivation in moist habitats, this is also an important part. Wild plants which thrive in moist habitats increased in the assemblage during the Iron Age 1. The earliest subphase of Iron Age 1 is the most distinct among the others. So this is actually an interesting ecological signal that could be a two explanation, which I am not pretty sure which one would be more important. So it seems that the appearance of this group of wild plants would be related to the farmer's decision to cultivate their crops in moist soils with higher degree of salinity. So this could be a signal of irrigation, or this could be a way of cultivation that these farmers were practicing after the flooding episodes of Orontes River. So I am not very much sure about that. But in relation to the higher degree of salinity, actually, what we would say that I found at least one research which test the relationship between salinity and stable carbon isotope results. So they say that actually in this manuscript, they say that the carbon isotope results would go down, would diminish one per mil during when the cultivation is being done in the saline soils. So actually, this particular signal also could be, as I said, could be related to the changes in the water course of Orontes. So when the Orontes, we know that during this period, early Iron Age 1, the Orontes changed its location, water course. So this could be actually opened up some moist and also well-watered fields, which with the high water table actually. So that could be also a reason for this ecological signal that we identified in this research. So finally, I would like to thank all of you for your patience, and I'm wishing the best